We got our special guest back, John Lopez, director of winemaking here at Copper Cane Wines and Spirits. And we just wanted to do a little harvest update. So we did that, but we veered off the path. I mean, started talking about, do you let your wines breathe or you choke them? And at what level of consent do you need?
Cup them.
You cup the glass.
Yes.
You cup the glass, you put it to your face when you're cupping.
Yes.
But
I think what Joe's trying to say is we were busting.
We're busting
some myths.
Okay.
We did bust some myths. John, you want to give like a 30-second recap on Harvest?
Probably the most consistent, ripe, concentrated, very tight window to get everything in.
I would say, that 2024 is a contender for the vintage of the century, vintage of the millennium.
Yeah.
I don't know, you're going to have to listen to this episode if you want to know more. What I love about the Latin culture in general, they all love each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're also like, you like any other culture, you go to France and you try to speak their language, and they're like, no, don't even try. No. You go to any like Latin culture, any place that speaks Spanish, and they try to like get you in. Like they want to communicate with you. They want to teach you shit.
Yeah.
They want you to learn their culture. It's really like something special that people I think overlook all the time. I know we're going to get into a harvest update on this podcast. And along with harvest comes kind of an influx of temp work, right? Temporary workers. Okay. Yeah. And so with that, our guys, our team does a really good job of like vetting the weak ones out, the guys that don't want to work, the guys that don't have passion behind what they're doing, whatever else. But the really interesting thing is a lot of them, all of them are like of Latin descent, predominantly Mexican.
Yes.
And so you never know if they are like second generation, third generation, or first generation Mexican until you talk to them. So I'm not doing the interviews or anything. Like John and Polly and the crew, like they're bringing these guys and girls in. And so I started doing this even just a couple of years ago, where I'd see a new face at the winery and like go up to him and be like, all right, I'm either going to say, ¿Qué pasó? ¿Cómo estás? Or like, hey, what's up? Yeah. Based off of like how they're dressing, like, like some dude's got like a Dodgers hat on and like looks all like just, Americaned out, whatever. And like sure enough, they're like, hey, what's up, man? Like, got you. All right. So that was kind of like a game where it's like,
They like when you speak Spanish to them, and they get knocked back because Joe knows very perfect Spanish. So they're like, who's that? I go, he's the owner. That's Joe Wagner. And they're, oh wow, okay. So they get a kick out of it.
Hold on, we got to do the intro.
Okay,
so welcome to Go With Your Palate. We got another episode with the famous John Lopez. Director of winemaking here at Copper Cane. He's coming back.
By popular demand. You guys want him back.
That was a popular episode. So thank you for being there, John. And
thank you, J-Lo.
It's my pleasure. A little lack of sleep, but I'm going to stay upright. We'll be all right.
You want some coffee? You want to?
No, that's okay.
You want some kava or some?
Kava, doesn't that put you to sleep?
It makes you feel good. I'll tell you that.
Dude, tomorrow's the last day of grapes coming in.
Yep. No, it's a big deal. We've been grinding.
You guys have been grinding.
It's a big deal. And like Joe said, we have a great group that shows up every year. We usually don't recruit people. We have the set of guys and ladies that love to come in and work at the pace we do, and they say our day goes by fast. It's a whirlwind of work, and they seem to enjoy it, so they come back. We don't really recruit people, so it's kind of nice.
And so with that, because I think a lot of listeners don't know kind of how this works when you bring people in for work, and obviously, if we're growing and we need to fill some new spots, this is our pool of where we really keep people on longer, and it's like, all right, you're now going to become kind of a full-time employee here at Copper Cane, and then they start to work up the ladder. But we also have people that come in every year. Mm-hmm. They could be living here domestically, or they could be coming from Mexico, and they just come up here to fucking crush it, working their ass off, running overtime, double time sometimes, making a bunch of money, and then being able to kind of like have more of a normal life for like the other 9 months out of the year.
Right.
Yeah. It's a really cool phenomenon. Like I think a lot of people in America don't understand that part of it, where it's like, this is an opportunity not just for future, but also to have a life well lived.
Right. Very challenging. A really cool story is this harvest. We have two young ladies. Their name is Hema and Tamara. Normally, it takes 4 individuals to do the job they're doing. And it is the daughters of Pablo de Aro, who I was my supervisor in 1998. So I was being trained when I started in wine by Pablo. He was my supervisor, and then John Bolton and Mr. Chuck Wagner. But now we have his daughters working in our cellar, and they're absolutely amazing. And I said, when I go on this podcast, I'm going to talk a little bit about that family gene turnover of just so overwhelmed of what a job they're doing. They're 18 and 21. They're the same age as both of my boys. And I got a call from Mexico, and he says, hey, my daughters are looking for work. And I think Polly handled it, and they came in, and they're doing a job that takes 4 people, and they do it smooth with a smile and very intelligent. And we'll see. They've opened doors maybe to stay with us, so we'll see where that goes.
They're charming young ladies. They keep their head down. They work. They smile. They say hi. They're getting their shit done. I don't think I've ever seen the samples, the tasting samples, ready to be tasted as early as they are right now. Like you said, 2 people versus 4 people in the past. So they're doing bricks, temps, sample pulling every day.
ETS analysis and labeling now.
ETS and labeling,
we don't normally...
ETS is a lab, by the way.
Right.
But,
So lab analysis, and they understand. And our winemaker, Nick Reinell, will write on the board. And if I miss something or don't label it properly, they already know. They go, what analysis is that? Do you want to send glucofruct ethanol or what? They're already picking things up, which is really cool to watch. It's refreshing. So, yeah.
Well, I want you to expand on that story of Pablo, because when I first entered into winemaking, I was kind of working out of what was B4, building 4, and it was kind of a corner of that. Like B1 was the storage area that eventually became barrel room and like fermentation area, whatever.
Some tanks in there.
Yeah, just whatever the fuck. But so it was like. You had John Bolta, and then you had Pablo and Poli. And Poli's still with us.
Yes.
Pablo decided to move back to Mexico. Yeah. And so to see his kids come back here and work in the same industry he was in. But he made that choice. He started doing, he opened up a tortilleria, making tortillas. And
distributing through ATVs and
a peach farm, right?
I don't know about the peach farm, but
he had a peach farm.
Okay.
I don't know if he got rid of it or sold it, but I know he had one.
Right.
But those 2 guys, Poli and Pablo, were like the cream of the crop. Those dudes, I learned so much from both of them.
Yep.
And Poli is still, just cranking away. He loves his job, his family, and his horses.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
No, he's very passionate.
He's rolled up to some of our parties with the horses.
No, so organized, and I always brag on every podcast. I say he has never called in sick. And he's over 30-something years. And, I'm not saying he wasn't sick, and he has been sick for a variety of reasons, but he will show self-induced damage.
The Monday morning.
Oh, Jesus.
What are the fucking grapes?
Yeah, today he was sitting at his desk, and Nick Reinell and I were laughing because I can hear him coughing, because he will put the hottest chilies he can handle on his food until he almost gagged today because he had the chili was so hot. He's all, give me a thumbs up, like, no, this is it. This is, I love it. So I was like, and Nick goes, he's a special man.
Is that like machismo? Like,
no, he just enjoys it. He enjoys, this is part of the culture. You enjoy spicy foods, and he doesn't back away. So he was close to a little bit of a, maybe not breathing, but he made it through.
Oh, I think it's great because right now it's even through the whole hacking trends and stuff we talk about, as they say that's one of the biggest problems as humans. We're just making ourselves too comfortable. So I almost kind of think that he's staying strong and badass because he's consistently challenging himself, even those little challenges.
It's smelling salt.
I mean,
it's smelling salt.
Yeah.
He's he's kind of dozing. He wants to doze. We're all a little lack of sleep, and he cracks the smelling salt. It's the hot sauce, and he's okay, I'm good. Let's go.
The smelling salt, and that's big too. They're ripping that stuff on Joe Rogan all the time.
Yeah, well, we do have some really amazing people in the cellar, and to your point, having these 2 young ladies come in and having the family history, and we used to see them at parties all the time. For them to come in and start working for us again is pretty awesome. So love to see Pablo up here. I don't know if he can get back anytime soon, but
I think he can. I think he's a busy man, and we'll reach out to him and see if he can make a trip and visit, and hopefully his daughters maybe still be on board.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, should we jump into the harvest update?
Okay, here we go. We're
Like
jumping
where
into
we're
the
at?
harvest. Yeah.
The last stuff, like people are still surprised that they hear we're still pulling fruit in because like people have really cleaned up Napa and Sonoma like 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, and we cleaned up Napa cleaned up meaning like the last of what we were picking that we wanted to hang out there and like great quality this year overall, but we have some ranches down in Santa Rita Hills, so Santa Barbara County in general. It's pretty cool down there, and we got some late season varietals. We got some weird stuff in today. We got like Terral to go. We're getting Sagrantino tomorrow. You got some Syrah,
Albarino. Second pick of Albarino.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And so like these are like little like fun projects on the side. We got the red blend thing coming out with the Italian varietals and all that. But the shit was ripe, like riper than I think we've ever had it.
Yeah, I haven't seen a consistent from Oregon to Santa Rita with the ripeness that we saw consistently. I have never seen that so ripe from north to south, like ripe as it gets.
Yeah, like pick of the litter ripe.
Yes,
like sometimes where it's like, yeah, this is ready to be picked, but I think it'll get a little better if we leave it out. To the point where like we got some high alcohol lots, but yeah, I mean overall, I'd pick that and the juicy. Dude, I didn't tell you yesterday with the group from Puerto Rico in. I dipped into one of the 2024 Petite Syrah lots that was from Lodi Fruit, right?
Yes.
Which I think we managed that well.
Yep, and it continues to accelerate in quality.
It's not usually looked at as like a high quality area, but you can produce really high quality Petite Syrah in particular. And so that'll go into the thread count red blend. But you dropped it into some new oak.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I'm going to give this a shot. Like, just like first 24 out of barrel that I've tasted. And so I shared it with everybody that was from Puerto Rico. And like, that's the fun of it. Like, it's kind of discovery for them. They're like, shit, yeah. They're like, holy shit.
Yeah.
That's Petite Syrah? Like, yeah, like, you could bottle that right now. It's like, it's juicy, it's round. It was like... So good. So I think what was your? Let's maybe start with this. What was your most challenging lot for you this year?
I would say across the board, we had to deal with everything being so ripe. So you always had to be on your toes with fermenters and make sure they didn't get out of control heat-wise or fermenting too quickly. But not to veer off from the question, for me, I would say what varietals thrive that normally would not thrive is what Joe said, the Petite Syrah, Petit Verdot, Merlots. The heat spikes that we experienced and the hang time that these varietals were able to see out on the vines created probably some of the best blender components that are used that are backbones to whatever style of blend you're trying to create. So I would say the challenge was across the board, but the varieties that thrived were those Petit Verdot, Merlot, Zinfandel, Petite Syrahs, and Syrahs. The heat spike just brought these dark flavors, rich, and then our job was kind of to control the fermenters because you have a little more sugar that you're balancing out. You're getting higher alcohol. So one of the more stressful harvests that I experienced, because it happened from September 29th that we started picking our Napa Valley Fumé Blanc to literally the 30th,
tomorrow,
31st. So a month of the amount of tons we brought in was very challenging, and they were all ripe. So you got hit from all angles. Oregon was coming in ripe, and even now Santa Rita coming in so ripe, probably the ripest we've seen since the vineyard's been planted.
Yeah, but also like trying to manage tank space, and that's when you reach a point where like, some wineries will say they can get 5 turns per tank, right? And some wineries will say no, like 1.5 turns per tank, whatever it is, because you're designing your winery based off of how quickly you're going to ferment through. And so on the higher end wine side of things, you don't want to rush things through, right? And so you come to a pinch point where you're like, oh shit, we're out of tank space, and what are we going to be able to do to pick this at optimum maturity? I mean, I think while also being able to have a spot for it in our tanks, right? I actually think it was a relatively smooth year because of that. It was consolidated, but I would say it was smoothed out a little bit I'm not like I know everybody was really really fucking busy, but it was a lighter crop.
Right.
Can you also just touch on when you're saying turns? So a full turn.
A full turn would be like we have let's just call it 5 tons of Pinot Noir coming in let's say mid-September, right? From wherever. So the earlier season ripener, right? So you have 5 tons come in. You're going to expect that tank's going to be open maybe 3 weeks later, and you can then fill it with cab. So if you finish that cab and you don't fill it up again, you have 2 full turns in that tank, right? So that vessel, if you plan it out right and stage it out right, how much fruit can you run through each one? So when I say 1.5 turns, I'm saying that equates to roughly, like, if we have the ability to hold 1,000 tons in tank, we're planning to process 1,500 tons in total.
Got it.
So that's kind of it. And so people will design their winery around it. But some people will say, okay, I've got 1,000 tons of tank space, but I'm running 4 or 5 day fermenters, and I'm going to run 5,000 or 6,000 tons through this place. You're maximizing your investment, yes, but you're also probably not going to get that quality. And that's where the rushing goes through. And like John mentioned about the at high bricks, high sugar levels, high maturity like we've had this year, fermenters can take off.
Yeah.
And if they do that, then they're burning through sugar too fast. You're not able to get the extraction you want. You can have spoilage organisms arise. You just have a myriad of different issues that can come about. And your temperature goes through the roof, and then once that's gone through and you're at 10 bricks, you're kind of fucked.
You lose.
You lose a lot of opportunity.
Yeah.
And you guys talk a lot about mentioning ripeness, and I think, and just for those that may not know, right? There's everyone kind of has their own way of picking, from what I understand, and what you'll hear a lot with wineries is there's some type of bricks that they're looking for before they want to pick. Bricks being the measurement of sugar, right? So, but like, we kind of have our own different style, which I thought we could go into a little bit too with the, you've spoken before about the dimpling and.
Well, so I can touch on that, but I want John to talk about something that's really interesting this year, which is like the soak out.
Okay.
And how, because our analysis isn't like trustworthy in a year like this. So, so we're going based off of physiological maturity, right? So in years where we can have that hang time and that extension of the season like we did this year, you're going to get very ripe characters, very soft, like that Petit Syrah. Usually it's going to be angular and a little overly tannic. This year it's like just beautiful, soft. It's like came out of the tank just tasting great. So that was in excess of physiological maturity. Like that was a perfect year for us for what we wanted to get. So when I say physiological maturity, you're looking at the vines themselves. So you've got a little bit of senescence, like yellowing on the lower leaves. Copper cane, fully like lignified off cane wood, which was green and succulent in nature early in the season, and then as ripening progresses, it becomes lignified and coppered off, and then you see that also maturity in the seeds, right? So you don't want green, soft tissued seeds. You want to see those hard, small, and lignified as well, like really, really hardy wood looking seeds, and some dehydration in the fruit.
Yeah,
and so the dehydration thing was interesting because we're picking at like high levels of sugar. Let's just pretend we start off like you get something in, it's 27 bricks. 20. Right. That's just a measurement of sugar. That just tells us how much alcohol potentially is going to come out of this, right?
Yeah.
So that's not necessarily maturity. That's just sugar accumulation.
Just a number. It's not saying it's a balanced ripe. We're just talking sugar. So yes.
Yeah. But let's say it's 27 when we receive it, and we destem it into the tank, right? So we register 27. And then what happens?
So, it comes in and we run on, for this vintage, you quickly had to make a adaptation to how you're going to function or you're going to get lost. And you're going to have fermenters that don't complete full fermentation because things are going so fast. So you reach a point where you fill probably 30 tanks very quickly and you're stating and you're reading on a physical hydrometer 27 bricks. As it starts fermenting and you build alcohol in the tank, the alcohol will actually start to kind of work the skins over, leach, and get into the raisins. So the faster you start fermenting in the tank as you go lower in fermentation, You get surprises. Now you're at 28 bricks. As 27, you're actually fermenting, and now it's actually 28. You build alcohol, so you're going the other way. And usually that is not common with all your tanks. You get Zinfandel will do that.
Yeah.
Some other very ripe varietals do that. You're on your toes all the time. You know it. You know it's coming. You make an adaptation. But this year, you were running around going 27 just went to 28.5, and now you're in the middle of fermentation. Now you got to make some adjustments to that, either temperature wise or any other adjustments that are fit to make sure you keep that fermenter going. So at one point, and Joe used to walk in, I used to sit on the board, and I had like a game plan sheet, like a football game plan of 100 plays, and
That is what it looks like.
Yeah, and I'm trying to keep up how they're all changing. So I couldn't trust. The lab gave me a true reading, but then you physically have to go look at the fruit and go, okay, that one looks like it's going to go up 2 bricks. That's going to go there. So we had to run analysis compared to twice, 4 or 5 times to read the makeup of the tank as it was changing on you. Because if you walk away and you go 27 bricks, we're going to be fine, you're going to find yourself at 28, 29 bricks. So we were constantly analyzing the tank in a very striated 5 subsections to keep up with every fermentation. And we just kind of finish that whole process, and we can kind of let things ferment. But this was ongoing for 30 days nonstop. The tank's changing on you constantly. So you got to keep up with that. And it can be very stressful because you're talking about 50-ton tanks, and you cannot let them go wild.
Well, and it's also the stress on the lab, right? And the turnaround time of the lab, because you're no longer just using that hydrometer to say, which typically you could say, oh yeah, it's 27 bricks and we started fermentation, now it's down to 25, it's next day it's down to 23, whatever. You're now having to do a more in-depth analysis where you're actually measuring glucose and fructose and alcohol, and then figuring out what if you added those together to a potential alcohol, so the remaining glucose and fructose, which are your fermentable sugars, your bricks more or less, what does that equate to in total alcohol? Then add that alcohol to the already produced alcohol in fermentation, and see if you're like if you're thinking, okay, our potential started off at, call it 27 bricks or 15, mid 15 alcohol.
You're going to be at 16,
and then all of a sudden you're climbing up to 16 and a half, 17 and a half. And you're like, oh fuck, I got a potential issue of fermentation on my hand, because that then is at risk of sticking because it becomes a toxic environment for the yeast, just as it does for humans in overconsumption, right? So they get to a point where you like the yeast are actually poisoning themselves because they're consuming all their sugar, or all the sugar, which is their food. They're consuming all their yeast assimilable nitrogen, which is their nutrient. And that these things are native in the grapes, and they're also creating alcohol, which is toxic to them.
Yeah.
And so they all have a different level, and every fermenter is different. It's not like, oh, this yeast is going to do exactly this. It's like, no, you got to fucking watch it.
Yeah.
And so John was running a lot of shit through analysis wise, monitoring, watching, getting a feel for the vintage, and I mean, I think it turned out great. But I know it was definitely there were moments of. Moments of stress, but I mean, what do you think? What was your highest alcohol this year?
We just had
I know you showed me one. It was just like, what the fuck?
No, we had finally one came through, and Nick Raynell was the first one to get into the computer and pop it up. And he's all, do you know we fermented 17 alcohol? And I said, okay. No, I didn't. This is again what we were talking about. You use your formulas to figure out that this is what you anticipate, and it just kept going and going, and you reach a point where you just got to let it go, and you got to hope that it finishes. It did. So 17 right now presently.
Okay.
It was a Petite Syrah and bone dry at 17, clean VA, no issues with bacterial issues or anything like that. But this vintage, again, you had to throw a little bit of your book out, and you had to use your savvy that you've learned. I've never gone through anything like this. This was consistently over 100 tanks that you had to deal with, constantly had some type of issue. You have to build your own formula. So you process analytics of how to read fundamental. It's very fundamental, glucose, fruit, ethanol. But then you have to look at the fruit, and then you have to make decisions. So you don't overreact or overcorrect anything. So we had to build a formula that fit this vintage with the variable. So when you're computing, and then once you dialed in and go, okay, point this amount with the equation makes all this work. But you got to figure it out really fast. So whatever the book told you to do, you had to throw it out real quick, and you had to evaluate the nature of this beast. And it happened real quick. And we basically built a spice rack with very ripe fruit, with ripe fruit, with balanced ripe fruit. You like that? You like that one?
Yeah, that was good. Yeah, because I don't think
You didn't know where I was going with
no,
this.
but I don't. I was like, hope he doesn't say underripe, because I didn't see a fucking underripe grape this year.
No, I'm talking balanced ripe to ripe to very ripe is the best way I can say it.
But to have those tools, like you said, the spice rack in the arsenal when it comes time to start merging parts together, right? So like if you just take Los Alturas Pinot Noir, you'll have a gradient of of a good solid baseline ripe that we picked when we were like, yeah, this is about ready. Start pulling it in, and then by the time we're done picking that and some of the riper blocks, you have this really rich round character that you're going to be able to source from and utilize to make that wine as like perfectly round and balanced as you want. So it really is one of those years that I think they're going to be very showy wines.
Yeah,
I think that's what we all like, anyways.
Yeah,
because sommeliers don't like showy wines. They like the wines you have to sit there and think about and be depressed about. It's like, where's my emo Pinot?
My emo Pinot?
Yeah.
Whoa, dude, is that a new one?
I just made it up.
We like you had Kami-Samis.
Kami-Samis drinking their emo Pinots.
Emo Pinot.
Yeah.
Dude, I kind of like that.
That's good. That's good. By the way, did you see the new Halloween costume?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, you did. All right. Yeah, it's a sommelier costume that I found online. It's what I'm going as this year.
Okay. Should be interesting.
All right, it's the douchey sommelier costume. It comes with natural wine and 4 times a markup, fake professional voice when talking to customers, a holier-than-thou attitude, a tight suit, of course, pre-programmed eye roll, a cocaine boofer, and an over-concern about the type of stemware you use. It does not include, however, invitations to any after-hours staff orgies. They said parties, but I'm pretty sure they meant orgies. So, but the disclaimer is that we need more good beverage managers and fewer douchey somms. I think that's what I get to, because these wines in this vintage are going to be what the general like consensus of wine drinkers want, right? Yeah. That's what I love about it. Like, these wines are going to be like, maybe they're going to be some of the wines, maybe the vintage is the vintage that brings more people into enjoying fine wine, because it's that type of a showy vintage, something that kind of harkens back to a little bit of I don't want to say naughtiness, but like you feel like you're indulging when you drink these wines. They're not necessarily wines you have to sit back and get really geeky about. They just taste really goddamn good.
Yeah,
and they're going to go great with food, and so I think it's a great opportunity for us. And on top of that, these douchey somms need to get out of the way and let the majority of beverage managers out there, some are somms, some are just really good beverage managers. A lot of them started off with being servers and found a passion for wine. And they're the ones that are listening to the customer at their restaurant or at their retail store. And these are the types of wines I think that are going to be resonating with people.
Yeah, and I think some of the somms that we also really enjoy are those ones that have gotten their hands dirty. Since we're here talking about harvest, if you can talk to someone what it's like for it to work a full harvest, to make your own wine, put your blood, sweat, and tears into it before you're hopping on some kind of handle and trying to like talk shit about someone that put their blood, sweat, and tears into. Yeah. When you've never even done it yourself, but you think you have something to say because you passed a test.
Because you were trained.
Yeah.
You were told what to think.
You were told.
Yeah, no, I think that, as Joe was saying, is I'll say it in my terms, is we need ambassadors that sell everybody's wine, that expose different styles of wine. Once you become very funneled and elitist type of, I mean, that's okay. You can do that. But I think the industry is helped by ambassadors, people that really understand, man, we got to get this wine, we got to show it to this crowd and this and that. The more of that, the more our industry thrives. I think once you funnel and you want to talk about, the slight breadth that this has, and can you taste that? And that 72 is awesome. I think you start to turn people off after a while. And, I've been around very knowledgeable somms, and they do what they do. But we have to be careful that we don't turn off our industry, the core of our people that want to see fun wines. They don't want to be told that, no, that you don't know what you're tasting. This tastes better. You're just a somm. I mean, you're educated. You understand. You have good verbiage. You understand the layout of the land. Doesn't make you any better than people that enjoy great wines. So a little humbleness on that side, I think, can help our industry. And nothing wrong with the somms, being very articulate and very worldwide wines. But you got to remember the core of what we're doing is for everybody.
Yeah.
And it's really important. And we got to make sure we don't hurt that.
Not for the elite.
We got to make sure we don't hurt that. And you can have great wines, balanced wines, and you still have you still have elite wines. But you got to make sure you reach out to everybody and not just pick a specific $500 bottle of wine all the time and speak about it. That's great, but it doesn't really help everybody.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and I think, and you've also mentioned too the journey of just the restaurant experience, food and wine pairing. Really finding out and more about like who the person is that you're talking to, and taking the journey with them, and getting away from the telling.
Right.
Telling them what to do.
John, you brought something up that I think is really important right now for our industry, and that's that. You could look at it from a generational standpoint and say that the boomers, they wanted to be guided, right? In a way. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that, but they wanted the 100-point scoring system. Right. They wanted sommeliers to give them guidance on what wine to do. They want that was like part of their culture. We have a very different culture that's coming up in the millennials and below that they want discovery.
Right.
And so if you're going to be like trying to push them on a product and trying to market directly to them, and if you let that even be known, it's like that's like I'm not into that at all.
Right.
They want to find something on their own. They want to show that they discovered something. Like they take pride in that.
Yeah.
And so it really is about, I don't even want to call it education. It's just awareness.
Yeah, and it's a balance of presentation of what everybody in our wine industry does. I don't think I've ever put anyone down. I don't enjoy certain wines, and I have a style, but it doesn't make their wine poor. And I have a difficult time when somms, are putting wines down dramatically, and this and that. And I think most people would like that wine. And, so anyways, it's a balance of presentation. And again, we got to make sure we don't turn people off. That hurts the whole industry. It's really important to put all the wines out there, diversified styles of wines. Throw a little cougar juice in there. Throw some Fumé Blanc. Throw the French fully loaded Brett one. Then you can talk about, do you get the flavor? No, I don't. But just go with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Throw the cougar juice in there.
So back to the harvest. But you got to throw the cougar. Cougar juice is not going away ever. Yeah. Like it's always going to be here.
Yeah. We're talking like Chardonnay.
We're talking like big oaky buttery Chardonnay. Yeah,
I throw it out there because it's extreme and it's frowned on. So I like to jab a little bit.
That's probably the most uncool thing to drink if you're a wine snob.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah,
cougar juice.
Oh, really?
I think they would probably, if you asked like 100 very wine snobbish people, sommeliers, and people just that are like all about the highest end of the high end wines.
Yeah,
I bet that would top the list more than anything else. I bet you would be cougar juice Chardonnay and Napa Valley Cab.
Wow.
I bet it'd be those two. Yeah.
Okay.
And what would be like a top or?
What would they actually recommend?
Yeah. What do you think? Like right now,
Sancerre, something like.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I love those. I mean, that's. I've learned over my lifetime of enjoying wine. Like I used to be very anti very old wines. Like if it was 20, 30 years old, I was like, I don't get this. It doesn't taste good to me. And over time, same thing with certain areas or regions, right? Like I didn't get red Burgundy, and now it's like you start to recognize
and appreciate a little bit of the
and you try to put yourself back into that place or that time, and you're like, okay, this is really from a different lens. It's a really cool thing to experience. even if it's not like you drink it and you're like, I will drink that whole goddamn bottle myself. You're like, no, I can appreciate this.
Yeah.
But before we came in here, we tried some wines out of a can.
Right.
Four wines. I'm not going to mention any names,
Yeah.
but I will say it was 1 Pinot Gris, 2 Pinot Noirs, and 1 GSM, like a Grenache Syrah Mourvedre blend. Varying degrees of quality, but you're not looking for, I think, high quality wine when you're looking at most canned wines, right? The wines tasted like they were kind of lackluster bulk purchased wine, like
right.
not like somebody's dribs and drabs of Pinot or whatever that were put together and then thrown into a can. I don't think that does anything good for the industry. But I mean, there's a maybe it does. Did you find were any of those wines like?
No, they were.
Would you order one?
No.
Even at a baseball game. I mean, like if,
I would
if
give
you-
I would give it a try, but I was turned off by what I just tasted. You want to make something crisp and clean. There was a lot of oak in a can. It doesn't do well. I would expect clean, crisp style of wine, fresh.
Yeah,
and
and-
that's not what we tasted.
I think you nailed it with that. The reds, because I was like that first
Yeah.
Pinot we tasted. I was like, "There's something way off on
Yeah.
this," and you're like, "The oak is not working in the can."
Yeah,
And I think there's a time and a place for a can.
Right.
But yeah, I agree with you. Like you almost want more of a Beaujolais Nouveau
Yeah.
style,
Yeah.
like just real fruity, satisfying but dry, like not but not
literally
oaky.
Sancerre in a can.
That'd be beautiful.
That's the flavor
Yeah.
that I'm looking for.
But
that
Yeah.
do you
people
think
would
actually
like.
adding some sparkles to that would actually help that marketing of it, like
Yeah.
the effervescence?
I mean, if you're, I think you either go sparkling, like up to that level of
Yeah.
pressure, or and sparkling's tough in a can. I think I mean, that's where I think the first real canned wine saw success. Sophia with Coppola.
Yeah.
That was kind of like, but that was really a moment based purchase, right? That was like, we're doing a bridal shower, so everybody's getting this like cans of sparkling rosé and they came with a straw. It was cute. And so that, but that was kind of the lead into it, and now you're starting to see like a lot of wines. I mean, you got, I know Boisset was doing some like Oakville Cabernet, like high priced cans. 375s over, I don't know, like $60 a can or something like that.
That's great.
Oh, whoa.
Cab,
great.
like Oakville Cab, like, and so I don't know if it worked out. It might have been a little less than 60, but like nonetheless, I know we weren't planning to talk about cans, but like I could see that being an alternative that gets people excited. But you got to have good wines, like what the 24 vintage delivered. Like it's got to be like, I think lean, crisp whites, like you're talking about,
Yeah.
no oak, just beautiful,
Yeah.
searing,
Clean, clean,
yeah, very
crisp,
clean.
and you get the fruit profile, and it's refreshing.
And then on the reds, I think they got to be juicy, low tannin, low oak.
Rounded, soft.
I think that's a good point.
yeah.
Oh, Art just brought up some of these.
It's a lot of
There's
can-
a lot out there.
it's a lot of
this
cans
canned-
there.
There are
canned
a lot
wine
out there.
Options.
The Babe
Yeah.
Rosé. Family time is hard. What was it, dude? Yeah.
Family time is hard.
That I think that was the name of like their. They had, God, that guy's advertising was hilarious. Not to go off the rails here, but like
yeah, I know you're.
he did White Girl Rosé,
Yeah.
and then Babe Rosé, and then Family Time is Hard Pinot Grigio. That was the brand name, was Family Time is Hard.
Yeah.
And I think the whole thing is like gone. But dude, he had the funniest billboards. He had that one billboard when he was launching White Girl Rosé,
Yeah.
and it was just like a picture of like the bottle or whatever, or glass, just like standard thing. But it said, "We're all pink on the inside." I was like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah.
He didn't give a fuck.
Yeah.
I didn't see any Bartles and James there. They don't sell
The-
those anymore, huh?
I don't
that
even
was
think
the-
that's wine based now. They came out with it again.
Did they really?
They came out with it again, but I think it's all. I think it's all
those are
malt-based.
like high school.
Oh.
We used to crack a few of those in high school.
And that shit got people into wine.
yeah, and I love their marketing.
Yeah.
The two older gentlemen.
the guy on the
Yeah,
board?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just like talking about, I don't know what's going on here.
Like Bartles and James.
Yeah.
Goes great
That's a classic.
with ice.
But, hey,
Because Bartles and James is a Gallo product, right?
right.
But they had this ingenious idea to just
Have these two guys. And,
hire these two actors and impersonate the characters that they envisioned that these two old farmers are.
Yeah, that's
And-
Hello. There are many ways to use the Bartles and James Premium Wine Cooler. One lady in Massachusetts even uses it to make bread. Well, Ed suggests an even better idea is to use it as a topping. For example, as a topping for ice. This is quick and easy to do and will not only improve the flavor of ice considerably, but will make it more attractive as well. So if you're tired of having your ice just plain, add some Bartles and James.
Oh my
we
God.
hope you appreciate this suggestion.
Oh, I used to
and
love
thank
these.
you for your support.
I forgot how good that
they're great.
that commercial was.
Thank you, Art.
I also said how they said it would look good. It looked good.
Yeah, very good.
Make your ice taste substantially better.
That's great.
So the crazy lots this year,
Thank
though,
you, Art.
before we wrap up Harvest,
For this harvest specifically, about how long has it gone?
It's
And-
gone. I mean, it's gone 30 days pretty much.
Yeah.
From
Oh, it's-
start to finish.
you think that's
Well, are we talking about the whole harvest? Like
Yeah,
from
like
pick
harvest
one,
is-
so we started
Yeah,
on
yeah.
29th,
Yeah,
and
that's a
we're,
very short harvest.
yeah. It's hard to
Yeah,
when you
yeah.
put it out there and you
Wow.
go, it's been 30 days, and we did everything 30 days. So
That's usually double that.
yeah. So
Yeah.
when Joe was talking about the recycle at the winery, the work just doubled because the window closed and you're recycling. The amount can be the same. It's how the windows open and close that create the mass work. You're still going to have the amount of work, but it's 30 days that we brought in all the fruit. Every drop of it came with.
I hadn't even thought about that.
Yeah,
That's
the
that's
29th of September
yeah.
to now, and everybody's been running and grinding and just really on top of it because 30 days it all happened.
And we're talking about vineyards from Southern California. We have obviously Napa Valley, Northern California, and then
Rita,
also
North
Oregon. Yep.
Yep.
So and all that was just
Yeah.
So it's like from
Coming in.
Willamette, Umpqua
Yeah,
Rogue, Sonoma, Napa, Monterey, Mendocino, Santa Barbara,
Santa Rita.
Central Valley, a little bit Lodi.
Yeah.
Well, Santa Barbara will
Yeah.
be Santa Rita, Santa
Covers the
Maria,
whole thing. Yep.
Los Alamos. Shit.
Okay.
So well, you had some questions, right?
there was this question of like behind the scenes or what do you wish people knew about what goes behind the scenes during harvest season? Maybe something they'd never guess goes into the perfect this perfect pour when they're drinking this wine. You actually brought up something, I think. How do you prep for harvest?
I used to have a workout regime, and I still have a workout regime where I used to run 2 months at least. I always work out through the year, but for 2 months, I would definitely try to run 5 miles every other day and then do light weights and prepare because by the time you get to the end, it keeps you sharper. You don't get sick a lot. I haven't been sick, knock on wood, this year. Usually I get sick December 17th. It's on the calendar. It's coming. So my regime was in order to be sharp and try to handle the stress that is naturally you have to embrace is a workout regime before harvest. I missed this one, so I'm a little more edgy, and it also keeps you a little calmer. But that's what happens sometimes. We had a busy year.
Yeah, I thought
So-
that was interesting because it's an event, right?
Yeah,
You're
it's
talking
an
about,
event.
It's almost like
Yeah.
You're training for a marathon.
because once that thing hits,
Yeah,
It really is.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're especially because you're going on how many days straight?
56.
Okay, so 56 days straight.
Yeah, getting up at 4:30 in the morning.
That's
every day.
and that, I mean, that's a lot, John.
Yeah.
Yeah. And,
Yeah.
you got to prep for that, and then you got to be mentally able to get through. I mean, like when you're in the trenches, and if you miss a day, like you just feel like you can't catch back up.
Yeah.
it seems like this year everything came in all at once, as we were kind of describing with as far as like ripeness. Even though, because usually with other harvests, would it be different? Would it be more staggered, just with the different weather of what
Yeah,
Oregon takes?
I'd say we had cab coming in while we had a lot of Pinot coming in.
Yeah.
And we had whites crossing.
Yeah, White's Crossing.
That was
all
crazy
ye-
because you
the-
mentioned
the whole- the month.
Albarino still coming. I mean, would that be normal? Because I guess
No, we
we've
just got
talked-
today was the last pick of Whites. That was Albarino, and we.
Ah.
So logistics.
it's
so
not-
no, that's
It's
not
a,
normal.
it's a good
right?
catch.
That's- yeah,
It's
so
not
people-
normal.
That's
No.
not normal.
Yeah.
But sometimes you have to do things more logic based, especially when it's not for a specific program, like it's an experiment, right? We picked the majority of the Albarino already. when we wanted to pick
like
it.
3 weeks ago.
Yeah. And then we knew we were going to have this like cleanup day where it's like these big reds that we want to hang out as long as we possibly can on this vineyard in Santa Maria. And so we decided to call the pick for this week. And we thought, okay, rather than sending a couple of tons, like, I don't know, 4 tons, called 4 tons, rather than sending 4 tons of Albarino up here on its own truck, let's just piggyback it on a larger truck and let it get ripe.
Yeah.
And so that's what we did. I actually had to leave the winery this morning. Do you know what it came in at?
You know what? It was okay. It came in at 26.
Really?
Yeah.
The Syrah
It
was
wasn't-
riper.
Yeah.
Shit.
Yeah, no, it came in. I expected it.
I thought it was going to be 29.
It looked a little rugged, but
Yeah.
came in lower bricks, and then we were surprised.
All right.
Yeah, we expected 28 or 27.
But you watch, that is going to be, if it's, that's ripe for a white.
yeah,
generally,
very right for
But,
Albarino. The acid will be interesting, and
yeah, but that's going to be an interesting wine to watch because that's going to be this like really
The
juicy,
aromas,
probably
yeah.
oily, like a grease pit of an Albarino, and it may be a good thing.
Yeah.
It may be a good blender, but the majority of what we already have is like that really bright, lean,
Crisp,
the style of Albarino that we've been doing. So that'll be fun to see. But yeah, I mean, right now it's literally, we call it cleanup. Like we're cleaning up all the last vineyards that are like, let's hang them out to the very, very end.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing right now. So like we'll be done by tomorrow, and it is oddball stuff. Some of them are experimental plantings. Some of them are dribs and drabs that like we didn't get to or we didn't have enough tank space for, and like, but they're not like an integral part of our program because we do have to prioritize. Especially, I'm baffled that like I didn't realize that it's only been 30 days of actual picking. Yeah. It felt like longer.
I know you go wait, John, no way.
Yeah,
And
I
30
didn't.
days.
When you said it, I was like,
No way.
John's wrong.
No, 30. I said no.
I know.
The 29th of September, we picked the Sauvignon Blanc.
John's like,
And, no,
And then I'm
going back. I'm like, fuck, John's
30,
he's
31,
right.
32
Yeah.
days. 31, 30, 32 days.
And when it comes to varietals, would you say a varietal has an easier harvest than another, or is it all just
I mean,
grapes? Like, because
I want John to answer this first.
Yeah.
Pinot, because it's always in the kind of a risk factor environment where you get coastal fogs and
You saying that's the easiest?
no, the toughest.
Oh, the toughest. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
the
Yeah,
toughest.
the toughest,
Yeah,
yeah.
no, it's the toughest because you're more dependent on Mother Nature. You want the heat. You want, like Las Alturas, we're very blessed that we get higher heat. We get some winds that come through, but you start going into, from Oregon to Santa Barbara County coastal lines, it can get really challenging, and you get mists, and even Sonoma County.
I totally agree with that.
Say Pinot.
Pinot's also a
Yeah.
tight cluster, and being that it thrives in these cool, moist areas, when you have heat, like little heat spikes here and there, but also that moisture that's trapped in the berries, you have a high susceptibility to rot. So it's kind of it's just the factors of weather really do compound the issues with that one. But I want to know what he thinks the easiest is.
Sauvignon Blanc and Chardonnay.
How about reds?
Reds, easiest? Ooh, not Zinfandel.
No.
No. So I'm going to say, Syrah's tough to grow. I'm going to go with, Petit Syrah. I like Petit Syrah. Still a tough one to grow, but I like dealing with Petit Syrah.
In hot climates, so it does
Yeah.
really well.
Yeah.
Like I think that's really where it's starting
From
to shine now.
Calistoga.
Yeah.
And then you kind of work down. I like
Yeah.
Petit Syrah. It's a little challenging, but it's a different varietal that most people wouldn't pick.
I'm going to go Syrah, which the two aren't related. Petit
Yes,
Syrah and Syrah
right.
are not related.
Yeah.
A lot of people think that they are, but Syrah in non-coastal areas.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
how about that? Like
I
really,
almost chose Syrah, but I was
yeah.
like, ugh.
I saw you going towards Syrah,
Yeah.
and I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
that one. Like when you're in Napa Valley or most parts of Sonoma, interiors of Santa Barbara, like it just seems to like hang out there. And it's just like chilling there. It's got like loose berries. It turns out to just be like, I don't know. It's resilient. Like it can handle a ton of sun and a ton of heat. It can handle rain and all that. So it's kind of like I look at that as kind of like a very chill variety, and it is such a good variety. I don't know why people don't like. It's like Merlot got a bad rap because of just a couple people saying bad things about it. Syrah went through the same thing. But Syrah is, I think, one of the best and most important red varieties in our world of wine. Like, I love it.
Yeah, I agree.
Did you kind of say that some of these wines that are right now more used for like the backbone, like Syrah? Isn't that kind of used for like right now?
It's like
gonna have its own time.
Yeah, Syrah, Merlot, Zinfandel. Well, you got to think like back when people started bagging on these varieties, right? Like the whole GSM, Grenache Syrah Mourvedre craze was going on in Paso. You had Zinfandel being broadly planted all throughout the hot areas. Same thing with Merlot. And they were just overproducing it. There's a lot of like mediocre to really lackluster wine out there. So yeah, they got a bad rap. But those vines didn't just get torn out. Those grapes just got repurposed. And that was the dawn of the red blend category. And so that's what we have today. So people still like those varieties and what they deliver. They like that round, root, juicy, spicy richness and tons of flavors coming at you. And that's because of, in the way that I see it, those three core varietals are really what make the majority of that up. Merlot, Syrah, and Zinfandel.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is known as this is the best vintage ever?
It's always the best vintage ever, man. What are you talking about? It's not even a question.
All
No,
right,
but hey, wait, I will say we didn't have fires. No fires.
no fire, yeah.
No fires. That was, knock on wood.
Yeah.
No
earthquakes.
Hey,
that happened.
That really fucked up our harvest
Yeah.
once.
No COVID, no pandemic.
No COVID.
No COVID. No pregnancies and births.
Yep, that
Well,
happens.
for at least personally for us three.
Yeah.
I'm sure there were people having kids out there.
But hey, harvest must go on. Those kids got to learn quick.
Yeah, no shit.
Right?
Yeah.
They go straight from the hospital to the vineyard.
We had a really, for as consolidated and as I think tough as the year really looked at the onset of it, when we were like looking at how things are shaping up, I really think it turned out to be a great year. And the state is short on its total supply. And that's a good thing. The industry needs it. Like, wine consumption is down. So I'm not like, shit, we didn't produce, to 100% of capacity. It's like if we produce to 80% of capacity, that's good. And that's not us alone. That's the industry at large. Like, there were some things that were high, but the majority of things were much lower yields than expected. So I think that's a good thing for the industry as well. But the quality, we're coming off two vintages now, 23 and 24. I loved 23. And 23 was not just a great vintage, it was also a big, big bumper crop. Like, that was a vintage where it was like, holy shit, this is like, you didn't know that some of these vines could produce that much. And then 24 was, I'd say, even higher maturity, so much softer, more supple.
A little more balanced.
Yeah, a little more
Balance out in the vines.
And less volume.
Yeah.
So I think in retrospect, I'd say that we're, maybe the industry as a whole, that we're able to manage or work on the wines a little bit more in 24 than in 23. I don't know. It feels like it's not, there's not a fire burning. Like, I mean, not forest fire, but like, you're trying to be like, okay, we got to push this one along now. Like, hustle. It seemed like it was a little more chill.
Yeah.
I was wondering if this is we've had our harvest update. Would you guys be open to busting some wine myths? That'd be great to.
Yeah, I would love to bust some. Actually, I think John, because John's well versed and.
All right, let's bust some myths.
Okay.
These
There you
are
go.
like so. A lot of as you know, Joe is like an influencer first. He gets asked a lot of questions.
I used to make wine, John. Remember those?
No,
days?
hey, Joe,
Remember
this
those
is
days?
great right here.
So we like to bust some wine myths. These are usually questions that come up through social media a lot, and just like something. So one of the myths is that people say all wines improve with age.
So no. So and I'm not just going to say no. I'm glad you're reading that because I can't see that.
Yeah, no,
That's
I got
awesome,
you.
man. All right, good. Can't see it. No.
So John's saying that wines are like eyesight; they do not improve with age necessarily.
No, what I'm saying is that wines may improve with age, and usually they do, but you can't make you hear that statement a lot. So if you make a tired wine, and it's already, let's just say, lower CO2. It's been moved around a lot. It's been aged more than it should. It's only going to get a little more tired. It's going to lose its luster a little quicker. It depends all the criteria of how it was presented in the bottle, and then you'll find out what direction it's going. But not all of them get better.
And
Yeah.
I'm going to add to that because I think one thing that's a universal truth is that if the wine doesn't taste good in its youth, it's not going to taste good when it's older.
Yeah.
Oh.
And that's something that drives me nuts about
Damn.
a lot of the old world where they're like,
Yes.
you have to put this down for 20 years. Like, I might be fucking dead in 20 years.
Yeah.
Like what? And then it's going to taste like heaven. Like
Yeah.
But that is one thing that I have seen absolutely like 100% of the time. I've never had a wine where it's like, oh, this is horrible, and then it's like,
It's
oh my
gonna
god,
get better.
10 years later it tasted great.
No.
It gets worse. So
Yeah.
so yeah.
That-
So and most good wines get better.
Yes.
But there is a level where, like, and every wine's different. There is a level where, like, they can fall off.
Yes. Yeah. And you've also noted before, too, that it also depends on going with your palate.
Yeah.
What do you prefer? Right? Something that's more floral?
Yeah. What I try to recommend to people are, like, if you find a vintage of a wine that you really like. Let's say you just happen to really enjoy the Quilt Napa Valley Cabernet. 22 vintage or something, right?
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah. So, it was a fucking awesome vintage. So, yeah.
Yeah.
But all right, so you try a bottle of that at a restaurant. You're like, I like that. Buy a case and then just leave it in your cellar, and once a year open up a bottle. Like, it doesn't take rocket science. You don't need like an app or some shit to keep track of your inventory unless you got like a 5,000 bottle cellar. Just like have a case, and then once you, like, maybe 4 years down the road, you're just like, man, that's tasting really good. And then you just drink the rest of it that year. And all the while you keep on replenishing, with other stuff. Preferably Quilt, but yeah, you know what I mean. You know what I'm saying?
All right.
All right.
So we got myth busted.
Myth busted.
All right. We got another myth right here. Red wine should be served at room temperature. What do we think, guys?
Whatever room you're in, I'm not sure what room you're in.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I know particular owners are very particular on temperature in rooms.
Yeah,
But I enjoy red wine. I'll speak for myself. It's between 57 to 59 degrees for red wine.
We got the house temperature and the house palette. So yeah, I'm with John on that.
Yeah.
And also, I don't mind when my room is 57 to 59 degrees, but
Yes.
yeah, my wife
Yeah.
doesn't like it.
Yeah, you also don't care that the office headquarters is 57 degrees, even when you're not there. Everyone's freezing.
And the other thing is,
so sorry.
speaking about this, don't be shy to get a bucket of ice and put your red wine in there for 5-10 minutes and make sure it's the temperature you like. You may get frowned on, or the somm may look at you and glare at you a little bit like,
Oh yeah.
stupid.
Well, dude, they're like in restaurants.
do it.
It's like really common for you're at a place like New York City, classic, right?
Yeah.
Because they don't have a lot of space, so they just got it like in a corner in a kitchen, like stacked up in cases, and so it's like going to be 70, 72
Yeah.
degrees, and if you order that wine, you're not going to have a good experience. Like, I'll feel a bottle when they bring it up to me, and maybe they think like I'm like eyesight impaired or something, but like bring it up to me, like put my hand on it, and
Yeah.
like I'm christening it or
Yeah.
some shit, and then I'll be like, oh, can I get an ice bucket for that? And like, sir, it's a Cabernet. Like, just
Dude, I
It's-
always thought you were feeling its aura.
yeah. I'm charging it with my crystals.
Tell me your story.
Okay, so myth busted.
So myth
Yes.
busted, and it sounds like to me, chill your reds. Give
Yeah.
that a try.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right here. Okay. Let's go with the next myth. You should let wine breathe by uncorking it and leaving it.
I mean, I wouldn't just say uncorking it and leaving it. If you open a bottle of wine and you feel like it's a little tight and you want to aerate, I do think aeration is good. I'm not ever going to say don't aerate your wine. If it's an older wine, you may want to hold back on that if possible. But like a Riesling would be one like that I have good experiences with, like really bone dry, like Alsatian Riesling, where you might open it up. And you can do this like a day before. Open it up, take a taste, and make a decision. You're like, oh, I think that there's more that it can offer. And then decant it, and then pour it right back in the bottle, put the cork back on, and wait for the next day. And just like try that. But like I think really it's experimentation, trying these things and seeing what works. But I think breathing or aeration is a positive thing for the vast majority of wines.
Yeah, can't hurt. You can't go wrong.
Yeah.
And would you recommend decanters?
Not all
that?
the time.
I mean, if you don't
For that yet.
if you don't have one,
Yeah.
and you,
I mean, I like decanters. You can also just use an old milk jug.
Look at that.
Like you don't need some
You don't need the
crystal
fancy
Flash it real high.
gas blown, those
like it's a snake.
twisty shapes. Yeah,
Looks
do you
like
need
a viper.
snake shape?
Funnel it in your mouth.
Well, I think it's important for people to know because a lot of the, we're not trying to. I know people have that kind of. They're in that industry and they're developing all these different kinds of decanters that are supposed to be, I don't know, more sufficient.
A lot of
and
them are just
aeration
trinkets like
and-
anything else.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll look cool.
Dude, you know what's funny is
I like the dragon ones. I've
most
seen.
of my decanters are actually used as flower vases.
Oh, dude!
I have all my decanters in the exact same place as my flower vases. So if like Rachel ever has flowers, it's like 75% of the time they're in a decanter.
That's a good tip.
Yeah.
Hey, if
I
you're
have the
in need of a
decanter
yeah.
with the vases as well. Yeah.
Are you using vases too?
I don't use them, but they're in the same section. But if I had to, I wouldn't be shy.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. I mean, you're just aerating the wine. I think it's,
I gotta tell you really quick because my dad. I went to go visit him like a few weeks. He was like in town. I went to go see the house. I saw him, and he's always got like he loves his Budweiser, beer, and he had this. It was a huge glass, and he was just like. I was like, wow, you're going for it. He's like, I'm retired, whatever. And I'm like, yeah, sure, go live the day. But I was like, I grabbed the glass and I was like, this is a flower vase.
right.
I was like, dude, you're living the day, dude. Like for sure. Like retired life is great. That's like when you've transitioned from like glassware like to
How many
vases.
cans of beer did he have in the vase? That's what I want to know.
You know what? That's what I want to know too. It looked like 3. If I had to guess,
right.
it was
All
like
right.
the 3 good ones. But because
boy.
but this is what he does though. Is then he's just like, don't give me shit. I've only had like 3 beers today. I'm like, in the vase?
In the vase.
40 ounces
Yeah, we
each.
gotta
In the
start getting
vase.
that. Let's like how many beers have you had? Like remember
That's
that?
good.
All right, you guys. I got one more myth for us.
Yep.
Okay. So I just want to say that last one. I think we can all agree. Yes, let wine breathe.
Yeah.
Taste it, try it out. But it's good that it gets air.
Yeah, I mean, unless the wine is into that,
yeah,
choke it a little bit.
yeah. Choke it. Okay. You choke your wine. Are we getting?
No.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
I'm just saying.
If there was. Yeah.
I'm all about pleasing.
If the wine wants
Yes.
that, then
Yeah, if the
you
wine
get,
wants
get
that.
the
Sure.
wine with the wine
Consent
needs.
after
Yes.
you get consent.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, next myth to bust is white wine should always be served ice cold.
Kamala Harris puts ice in her wine from time to time. I actually read an article on that.
okay.
Yeah.
That puts ice.
That she's a wine drinker, but she'll put ice in her wine.
Well, I've seen that too. So what do we? Okay,
That's
two-
totally different than this, but I
I
just had to
know.
bring that point up because
Well, I'd like to visit.
everybody engages with their wine in a different way. But I'm gonna say I prefer, by and large, all my whites to be chilled. But it's nice to let them warm up in the glass or on the table. So especially like Chardonnay,
Yeah.
because a lot of those nuanced characters can be a little subdued
Yeah.
when it's too chilled.
I would say a little over chilled. So when it gets on the table, it can warm up in the glass. You can take your time with it. And it's nothing worse than a warm white wine.
Yeah.
So,
But you know what I like to do too, and this is a little trick that people don't do very often. We do it a lot when we're in the cellar, just because if we're tasting a blend and it's like coming out of cold stabilization or whatever, like you'll be tasting and it's going to be like no joke, like 35 degrees,
right.
30,
Cold stabilizing.
like
or
really
whatever.
cold.
Yeah.
And so just rub your hands together, friction, right?
Yeah.
And then cup the bowl of the glass.
Cup the
And
what?
Cup. Why are you guys getting all perverted on me?
No, I just,
Man.
I'm just watching you, dude.
Talk about
Go ahead.
choking your wine instead of letting it breathe.
Hold on, go
You're
ahead.
just going Miyagi.
So you cup your hands
You got that
around
much on?
around the base of the bowl.
Yeah.
And you swirl it in circles.
Okay.
And then do it again
Yeah.
until it warms up. But like every time you do it, the transfer of the heat into the glass and then into the wine is like that really does happen much more rapidly than I think people think.
You always want to start off chilled, but
Yeah.
then you like to do your
Yeah, if you want to do that at
The Miyagi
like at
or-
the
Yeah.
table, the Mr. Miyagi.
the Mr. Miyagi, and then you warm up your hands, and then you cup them.
Cup
you
it.
Cup it
You cup it.
with both hands.
cup it, and you'll feel that heat transfer. You feel your hands getting
Do you
cold.
bring it to your mouth with the cup while you're cupping it to drink it, or do you?
I'm going to leave that up to personal discretion,
Okay.
and it probably depends on what kind of company you're with.
There you go.
All right. You could or you could grab it by the stem.
You have it from Mr.
Yes.
Joe Wagner.
Yeah.
Cup
do
it.
it. All right.
Well, hey,
That's we.
I think we
busted a
gotta-
couple
yeah.
minutes right there. Yeah.
I think
So-
we gotta cut out because I got more shit to do.
This is fast. This is like
Yeah,
10
I mean,
minutes.
Do you? You want?
That was only 10 minutes, John. Yeah,
10 minutes?
that was our 60-day harvest turned into 32.
Yeah.
Apparently,
You said no way.
No way.
32.
Fuck
No
that.
way.
No
dude.
way.
Yeah.
It's not possible.
All right. Well, thanks for coming back, John. We'll have you on every once in a while. We want to hear your stories about Puerto Rico when you get back,
Oh, I'm going to have some stories.
and pictures. You got to share the pictures.
My camera went out. So no pictures.
All right.
All right.
No pictures.
So I guess say bye.
We're
All
out.
right, we out of here. Okay. Catch us next time. Peace.
All right.